All right, as a reminder, this meeting will be recorded. Please limit use of the chat as those comments are not visible to the public and we do not want a conversation going on separate from what is verbalized in the meeting. If you get disconnected or have tech issues, please use the dial-in feature. And with that, the regular meeting of the Capital Long Range Improvements Committee will now begin.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Strand. I'm the chair of the Capital Long Range Improvements Committee. Before we begin, I'd like to note that this meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota statutes, section 13D.021, due to the declared local health pandemic. I will now call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll so that we may verify the presence of a quorum. It is 12:02 p.m. on June 9th, 2021.
Thorbjorn Adam.
Present.
Zachariah Aiden. Zachariah Aiden. Jocelyn Beard.
Present.
John Bernstein.
Here.
Steve Brandt.
Here.
James Brown. James Brown. Luke Cunningham.
Here.
Scott Engel. Scott Engel. Amity Foster.
Here.
Eamon Gallagher.
Here.
Bill Graves.
Present.
Kai Goodmanstead. Kai Goodmanstead. William Gullickson.
Here.
Risa Husted. Risa Husted.
Here.
Katie Jones.
Here.
Matt Kazinka. Matt Kazinka. Richard LaRoe.
Here.
Erica Mauter. Erica Mauter. Dan McConnell. Dan McConnell. Jake McCormick. Jake McCormick. Dan Miller.
Aye. Here.
George Montague.
Here.
Beth Toso.
Here.
Katrina Stratton.
Present.
Eric Wan.
Present.
Vice Chair Willie Bridges.
Present.
Chair Jen Strand.
Present.
There are 20 members present.
Thank you. So we have quorum.
Hi, this is Todd Schumann. I'm here as well.
Okay. 21. Very good. Before we move to the agenda and minutes, Chair would like to just add some brief remarks that referring to our adopted policies and procedures. Remember the committee discussion that we referenced previously, and the final statement in that paragraph is CLIC's role as a community voice is strongest when members voice their diverse perspectives. So I just want to say that. And ahead of our debate today on the comments, I want to preface saying that we do need to listen to all the voices of CLIC members. We should be respecting the perspectives of each member from differing life experiences. We should be open to ideas from other members. During discussion, we should be cognizant of how often we have spoken. Each of us may need to pause in order to make space for other members who may be reluctant to speak. And remember that none of us is individually as smart as the collective wisdom of all of us. And those are opinions of the chair only. So we'll next move to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's legislative information management system, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. And to save time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda and accept the last meeting minutes. And when members are moving an item, please state your name for the motion and for the second. So adoption of the agenda for June 9th, 2021, and approval of the meeting minutes from June 2nd, 2021. Is there a motion?
This is
So
Thor.
move.
Yep. I second
Thor,
that. Yep.
and
Thor
who's the
first.
seconder? Who's the seconder?
That was Thor.
Who was the mover? I thought Thor was
Oh,
moving.
Bill Gullickson.
Bill Gullickson. Okay, very good. Uh,
Use it either
Katrina?
way, however you want, Jeff.
Okay, whatever the secretary clerk will record it. Before we proceed to a vote, Katrina, was there a question?
Not a question, but I'm not listed as being present in the last meeting on the minutes.
Okay, so we should have that correction made. Thank you. Zach Aiden,
Yeah, I just want to make sure I was recorded as present for this meeting. I joined a couple of minutes late.
clerk will so note. Katrina, did you have another point? No. Then the clerk will please call the roll on adoption of the agenda and the prior meeting minutes.
Thank you, Chair. And so noted on the adjustment to the minutes and Zach being on the meeting. Roll call, Thorbjorn Adam,
Aye.
Zachariah Aiden,
Aye.
Jocelyn Beard,
Aye.
John Bernstein,
Aye.
Steve Brandt,
Aye.
James Brown, Luke Cunningham,
Aye.
Scott Engel,
Aye.
Amity Foster,
Aye.
Eamon Gallagher,
Aye.
Bill Graves,
Aye.
Kai Gudmundsson, William Gullickson,
Aye.
Risa Houston,
Aye.
Katie Jones,
Aye.
Matt Kazinka, Richard LaRoe,
Aye.
Erica Mauter, Dan McConnell, Jake McCormick,
Aye.
Ann Miller,
Aye.
George Montague,
Aye.
Beth Toso,
Aye.
Todd Schumann,
Aye.
Katrina Stratton,
Aye.
Eric Wan,
Aye.
Vice Chair Willie Bridges, Vice Chair Willie Bridges,
All right, sorry about that. Aye.
Chair Jeff Strand.
Voting aye.
There are 23 ayes.
Motion's adopted. We'll next move to our discussion and item 4, complete task force comments. Finish work on tabled and open task force comments from the June 2nd meeting. Staff have a document to share.
Yep, Jeff, I'll pull up the document. I do want to note I
Thanks.
see one hand up.
Thanks, Robert. Katrina.
I move to reconsider PV 158 Hennepin Avenue for further discussion for 2 reasons. One,
Okay, Katrina, just a second. Let's see if there's a second. Were you on the prevailing side when that was acted on previously? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Willie
This is
Bridges.
Jocelyn Beard, I second.
Second by, I'll take Jocelyn. So then Katrina, the understanding is that the motion to reconsider has to be moved by someone who is on the prevailing side. I will defer to staff if there's any question. And then it does require a 2/3 vote. So Katrina is recognized and Jocelyn.
So we need to discuss this further, and I apologize that I didn't know the full extent of this project. The comment was written, how I read it meant something different than what it really was perceived to mean. So we've received written confirmation of the federal funding situation from Public Works, so that no longer applies. And I don't think we fully discussed the community engagement completed to date, of which there's been a lot of unique things done for this project. For these reasons, I'd like to reopen the discussion for consideration.
Thank you. And Jocelyn?
I agree with Katrina. I don't have anything to add. I think that we should go back to discussion specifically because of the information and knowledge around the community engagement that has already happened around this project.
Would it be possible for staff? I may not be the only person who, I have a copy to refer to, but I can't possibly read that on my screen. Too small.
Yeah, you want me to, well, when I can zoom in a little bit, do you want me to read out the comment?
Oh, I think that's perfect zooming in. Does anyone present need to have the comment read? John? Recognize John.
I saw John's hand up, but I don't hear anything. Right now I've got up the PV 158 Hennepin Avenue, Lake Street West to Douglas Avenue comment. I just want to confirm that I've got the right one on the screen for the discussion.
I was going to wait to speak until the comment is read.
Oh, Robert, would you read the comment, or clerk?
Yep, no problem. Implementation, this is the PV 158 Hennepin Avenue project. It was added following our May 26th meeting and adopted last week. Implementation of this project has been delayed from 23 to 2024, but the project description indicates that $7,550,000 of federal funding has been awarded for construction in 2023. CLIC recommends that the city confirm and clarify that this federal funding will still be available for construction in 2024. CLIC also recommends that the city use the extra year to consider how the pandemic and other significant changes could affect transportation needs in this vital corridor compared to the 2018 data used in developing the project and funding requests. Thoughtful consideration will be required to ensure that the 88 to 96 feet of street width is utilized in a way that balances competing interests and fosters continued vibrancy in one of the most active commercial and residential areas of the city. End comment.
John?
Thanks. I'm going to make 2 points on this. One point is operational, and the other is about the comment specifically. As I understand it, there was an orchestrated effort offline between meetings to bring this comment back, where most, if not all, of the committee members were lobbied about this. We don't have any rules that specifically prohibit that. It just, something about that doesn't feel quite right to me. But I just want to put that out there. And then secondly, on the comment, it's great that we've gotten written confirmation from Public Works that the funding there's no risk to the funding. I guess if we want to remove that, we can. I don't have a huge issue with that, although I really don't see, I just don't see this comment as controversial in any way, shape, or form. And just having it, while we've gotten that written confirmation from them, having it in the report, and we're not calling anybody out, we're just saying be sure about this. I don't think it does any harm there. And if you read the rest of the comment, it's saying take into consideration anything you may have learned through the pandemic. Whatever public outreach they've done on this project to date certainly does not include that. We're not even fully out of the pandemic yet. So I just think the comment is perfectly fine as it is, and there's no reason to reconsider this. Voting no on reconsideration. Thanks.
George?
Sorry, George, I'm not hearing anything.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm having trouble with my mute, but I did receive the email string as well, and concern I have remains as the author of this comment that it's just seeking confirmation that the federal funding that was awarded that the proposal indicates that the funding was rewarded for construction in 2023, but it is now going to be done in 2024. So just seeking confirmation of that. The email string, and I'm not sure that that's sufficient authorization, but it just simply says that the city intends that the federal funding is maintained. It does not provide any confirmation that the federal, that the federal funder concurs, or that it has been confirmed that the funding will be available in 2024. That's all that this is trying to seek. And I think it's, our responsibility as folks reviewing this to ensure that what's written is consistent, and just pointing out, or noticing that discrepancy and trying to seek clarification. So if that in fact has been confirmed, maybe we can modify the actual proposal so it's not necessary. If not, I think we do need to indicate that discrepancy between what's being anticipated and what's been confirmed still exists. And then similarly, the comment about community engagement, the proposal actually doesn't mention anything about community engagement, just making sure it wants to make sure that we are using the best data to make this important decision. And I have read about how other cities have modified their plans based on new traffic patterns post-pandemic, and I think it'd be appropriate and responsible for the city of Minneapolis to do the same, and that was the spirit in which this was written.
All right, next, Katie Jones and Scott Engel.
Yeah, so I'd like to speak to this with regards to the confirmation of funding. This is not something that we have typically done, and this is something that is typically an email. So it does just seem odd to me that for this particular project, where this is something we can just get resolved via an email, that it's being put in the click comments. Secondly, and the fact that we got some confirmation via email from Public Works about this, and they are committed to keeping this funding. This project just cannot happen without that federal funding. And I know that the city is committed to seeing this project through. Secondly, the community engagement is the critical piece here. I've been following this project ever since it came to Click, and actually authored multiple comments over the years to get specifically at community engagement, knowing that this is a critical corridor, as it was pointed out by this comment, that we needed to be thoughtful about that, and Public Works has. They created a community advisory committee that is specifically focused on engagement. I don't know of any other project that had that type of committee, and that committee was well representative. It had business owners, it had property owners, it had renters and homeowners all along the corridor. So I think that was well representative, and that group was really good at making sure that people's interests were that those gaps in engagement were being filled, when it came to signage in certain areas in the neighborhood or what have you. And so that's been a lot of work that the neighborhoods and the community members have done. And there was a process that was put in place. And there was basically community was told that there would be a decision this year. And to not follow through on that is a disrespect to this process. It's disrespectful to continue to ask the community to be to further go through these processes. It's good governance to set a process and make a decision. I understand that the pandemic has been a component of this, and that has been actually very well addressed through the engagement process. At the end of the day, we have a transportation action plan that sets our high-level holistic view and policy on our transportation networks, whether it's busing or it's driving or it's freight or it's biking. We want to be planning holistically and not in like mile and a quarter segments. And I think that's what this comment is trying to get at here, is we need to study the actual traffic counts and how they're going to be changing over the next year. And honestly, is that really, no one knows if that's going to be representative of what is going to be needed. We need to trust Public Works to set our guidance for our city based on the policies that have been adopted, our policies for equity, our policies for sustainability. And therefore, I hope we can bring this back up for reconsideration. Thank you.
Scott Engel.
Yeah, I have a question before my comment. Can somebody clarify when the ClickBook that this comment would come out? Is that December or January?
The 2021 Click Report?
Yes.
Should be June 30th or July.
Okay.
Late June or early July.
Okay.
Robert's nodding.
Okay, that's fine. So my comment is that it just seems that this is unusual for the click to take a position to delay a project based on design. And and I don't feel like this group has been informed enough, especially based on what is provided through the CBRs, that we should be asking for this. And it seems more like a political move to push it into another calendar year for maybe a perhaps more favorable political thing to change the design that's being proposed.
Thank you,
So
Scott.
I'm going to support the motion to re-look at this.
Okay, and then I see Amity, and then I just want to make sure that anyone who has not yet spoken, raise your hand if you wish to do so before we move to members who wish to speak a second time on the same issue. Amity?
Thank you. I'd also like to speak to bringing this back up for discussion. I think what Katie laid out, I didn't fully understand the depth of the community engagement that has already happened around this project, so I'd like to hear more about that. That should definitely inform my vote. And I agree with everything that Scott and Katie laid out. So.
Thank you. Then we'll go to John and George.
Thanks. I just want to clarify. I think people are misreading this, unless I'm misreading it, but George can speak to it after me. This comment does not request a delay. This comment identifies that Public Works has delayed the project by a year. Nobody's asking for a delay. It says it has been delayed. That's the way Public Works has requested funding for the project. So we're not asking for a delay. We're asking them to use the time that they have as a result of that delay.
George and then Katie. Unmute.
Sorry. Yeah, so just to clarify what John said, that the project as submitted was moved from 2023 to 2024, and this does not propose making that delay. That was what was submitted, and that's why I identified that, if with that being the project timing being changed by the city, that we just confirmed that the funding availability was there. And I'm not sure if it needs to be made as part of the public record, but again, to quote it from Becca Hughes, the note says, "Our intent is to ensure that whatever schedule adjustments have occurred or may occur, that the federal funding is maintained." It actually does not confirm that the federal funding will be available in 2024. And maybe there's other information that does that, but this is an important enough point. If as it was stated, if the projects it depends on that funding, it's something that we should clarify to the city council as they consider this. And then secondly, there's really no mention of the community engagement. I'm concerned more, and in the spirit of the comment was in understanding the data, and to the extent that the data has materially changed, such that a suboptimal decision might result. I do think it's important, given the enduring nature of this investment and the magnitude of the investment, that we take it into consideration, just like we are with some of the other proposals, given changes in the economy and the city since some of the initial proposals were developed. And that's why I wrote the comment and continue to support it. Thank you.
Right. So we will go to Katie, and so we're into members who are speaking a second time. And so if there are any members who have not yet spoken, please raise your hand now. I'd like to try to conclude this since it's already 12:26. Katie?
Yeah, I can appreciate that clarification. My concern is that there is a constituency that has been pushing for a delay and a delay in the decision. And so language like this can add fuel to the fire, essentially. And that is why I am not in favor of this, and that really we should be falling back on what is the vision of the city that we want, and not that, I mean, even if we do collect data over the next year, that is not necessarily indicative, considering that we're still coming out of the pandemic, that will make a notable or significant change to the project.
Katrina.
So one of the sentences that I think is kind of a passive aggressive push is the one that says thoughtful consideration will be required to ensure that 88 to 96 feet of street width is utilized in a way that balances competing interests and fosters continued vibrancy, et cetera, et cetera. To me, that says that thoughtful consideration wasn't given fully, or that and it feels like it's a direct push and kind of wink, wink, nod, nod statement when I mean, that's really quite a directive statement for this group.
And Dan and Rich.
Hi there, this is a point of information. Is this an appropriate time to offer a friendly amendment to this? Or do we reconsider it first?
We haven't yet determined that we're reconsidering the matter that's been previously adopted, so I would rule it should be made later if the motion passes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Rich?
Yeah, so I guess I wanted to speak to two comments that were made, both pro and against the intent of the language here. We will have new data this year, and I think nobody can disagree that the landscape is changing quickly. 2 years ago, the nature and the energy of Hennepin Avenue was significantly different than it is today, and I think will be over the next year. And I think it would be unfortunate if we ignored that. So, you know, a year from now, maybe things will be the same and we'll be all back to normal. And the plans that were put in a year ago will be perfectly appropriate for next year. But maybe they won't. So I, for one, would like to see that somebody's looking at this, given the time we have, and not just, you know, put a period on it and say, you know, nothing else to see here, move along. So I would support leaving the comment in as is. Thank you.
Willie is next.
I call for the question.
Is there a second?
This is Thor. I second that.
Seconded. I believe that's non-debatable. We have to do a roll call, so all in favor of calling the question ending debate. We'll do a roll call.
Chair, this is Justin. To confirm, this is a roll call on
Calling
the question, not the motion to reconsider.
That is right.
Thorbjorn Adam.
Aye.
Zachariah Aiden.
Abstain.
Jocelyn Beard.
Can you say that one more time for me? So we are just saying that we're closing the conversation?
That is correct. The motion is to end debate and to consider the reconsidered motion.
Aye.
John Bernstein.
Aye.
Steve Brandt.
Aye.
James Brown. Luke Cunningham.
Aye.
Scott Engel.
Aye.
Amity Foster.
Aye.
Eamon Gallagher.
Aye.
Bill Graves.
Aye.
Kai Gudmundsson.
Aye.
William Gullickson.
Aye.
Risa Husted.
Aye.
Katie Jones.
Aye.
Matt Kazinka. Richard LaRoe.
Aye.
Erica Mouter.
Aye.
Dan McConnell. Jake McCormick.
Aye.
Dan Miller.
Aye.
George Montague.
Aye.
Beth Toso.
Aye.
Todd Schumann.
Aye.
Katrina Stratton.
Aye.
Eric Wan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Willie Bridges.
Aye.
Chair Jeff Strand.
Aye.
That is 27 ayes with 1 abstention.
We will then call the vote on reconsidering. No further debate.
The clerk will note that, as the chair mentioned, this is a 2/3 vote needed to approve. There are 25 voting members present. Thorbjorn Adam.
Wait, could we
just
confirm does an aye vote remove the comment?
No.
Motion was just to reconsider, not to reconsider and withdraw or remove. So we have to have another vote on up or down would be my interpretation.
So an aye vote says we will reconsider.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Thorbjorn Adam.
Aye.
Zachariah Aden.
Aye.
Jocelyn Beard.
Aye.
John Bernstein.
No.
Steve Brandt.
Aye.
Luke Cunningham.
Aye.
Scott Engel.
Aye.
Amity Foster.
Aye.
Eamon Gallagher.
Aye.
Bill Graves.
Aye.
Kai Goodmanstead.
Aye.
William Gullickson.
No.
Lisa Houston.
Aye.
Katie Jones.
Aye.
Richard LaRoe.
No.
Erica Mauter.
Aye.
Jake McCormick.
Aye.
Dan Miller.
Aye.
George Montague.
No.
Beth Toso.
Aye.
Todd Schumann.
Aye.
Katrina Stratton.
Aye.
Eric Wan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Willie Bridges.
Aye.
Chair Jeff Strand.
Aye.
That there are 21 ayes and 4 nays.
Appears the motion is adopted. Is there any further debate needed on the comment since we're at 12:33? Is there any further discussion on so the question would be on to adopt or not adopt the comment unless Dan Miller had a quote unquote friendly amendment earlier.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I appreciate the author's attempt to, discuss something that is still in process. And if I could possibly have the person controlling the screen maybe highlight the things which I would delete, maybe that would be the best way to do it, or strike through it.
Sure.
But I would offer this as a friendly amendment to try to keep part of what the author is trying to do here. So what I would do would be to eliminate the first 2 sentences, which would be implementation of this project has been delayed from 2023 to 2024, but the project description indicates that $7,550,000 of federal funding has been awarded construction in 2023. CLIC recommends that the city confirm and clarify that this federal funding will still be available for construction in 2024. So I would delete those 2 sentences. The following sentence I would put in CLIC and then strike also. So it would read, CLIC recommends that the city use the extra year to consider how the pandemic and other significant changes affect transportation needs in this vital corridor period. And now we're going to strike the following language, which is compared to the 2018 data used in developing the project and funding request. Next sentence would start with continued thoughtful consideration will be required to ensure that the 88 to 96 feet of street width is utilized in a way that balances competing interest and fosters continued vibrancy in one of the most active commercial and residential areas of the city. So I would offer that as a friendly amendment to.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second it. This is George Montague.
Okay. At this point, because this was previously adopted, I don't think it's appropriate as chair to have, friendly amendments don't really exist. So we have a properly moved amendment and a second. I'll recognize Katie unless the maker wishes to state any further rationale.
I was just trying to honor a person that is a new member to Click that has concerns about this area, and I realize that this is there's a lot of good work that's been done on this, and I think a lot of good work will continue. And I don't want to. I just think that he had some comments, and if a friendly amendment isn't in order, he has to approve it. Or I guess it's been seconded. So. There you go.
Thank you, Dan. Katie?
I would just say I would be okay with this if we strike the words extra year. Or that the city can, yes, you use the extra year.
I'm fine by that.
Okay, so technically amendment to the amendment, but I don't want to get into too many roll calls. If there's no objection, that'll be included in the maker's amendment. Discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the clerk will call a roll on the amendment that is shown. Do you need to have that? Anyone need to have it reread? It's no, I'm seeing no. So let's call a roll on the amendment, please.
Thor Adam.
Aye.
Zachariah Aiden.
Aye.
Jocelyn Beard.
Aye.
John Bernstein.
Aye.
Steve Brandt.
Aye.
Luke Cunningham.
Aye.
Scott Engel.
Aye.
Amity Foster.
Aye.
Eamon Gallagher.
Aye.
Bill Graves.
Aye.
Kai Goodmanstead.
Aye.
William Gullickson.
Aye.
Risa Husted.
Aye.
Katie Jones.
Aye.
Matt Kazinka. Richard LaRoe.
Aye.
Erica Mouter.
Aye.
Jake McCormick.
Aye.
Dan Miller.
Aye.
George Montague.
Aye.
Beth Toso.
Aye.
Todd Schumann.
Aye.
Todd Schumann. Katrina Stratton.
Aye.
Eric Wan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Willie Bridges.
Aye.
Chair Jeff Strand.
Aye.
There are 25 ayes.
Amendment is carried. Is there any further discussion on the motion as amended? Any further discussion? Seeing no hands raised, we'll just redo that. Clerk will call a roll on the adoption of the amended comment.
Thor Adam.
Aye.
Zachariah Aiden.
Aye.
Jocelyn Beard.
Aye.
John Bernstein.
Aye.
Steve Brandt.
Aye.
Luke Cunningham.
Aye.
Scott Engel.
Aye.
Amity Foster.
Aye.
Eamon Gallagher.
Aye.
Bill Graves.
Aye.
Kai Goodmanstead.
Aye.
William Gullickson.
Aye.
Risa Houston.
Aye.
Katie Jones.
Aye.
Matt Kazinka.
Aye.
Richard LaRoe.
Aye.
Erica Mouter.
Aye.
Jake McCormick.
Aye.
Dan Miller.
Aye.
George Montague.
Aye.
Beth Toso.
Aye.
Todd Schumann.
Aye.
Katrina Stratton.
Aye.
Eric Wan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Willie Bridges.
Aye.
Chair Jeff Strand.
Aye.
That there are 26 ayes.
That is adopted, so that motion has been reconsidered, amended, and adopted as amended. So now we can continue with any other task force comments that require action today.
Yeah, let me bring the first. Let me bring the document up to the first comment that we have. It's not been adopted, if that makes sense.
I think the agenda had us looking at the task force comments first.
Correct.
Oh, thanks, Rich, for the correction and bring us down to the first task force comment.
Yeah, I move that we continue discussion on Art 101, Art in Public Places. And I'd like to lead off with a question to Eric Wan.
Is there a second on that? And are you moving it as presented?
Well, the question is, or the statement.
Are you moving? So you're moving it because without a motion, we don't really have anything to discuss.
Oh, so what am I moving? I move that we discuss this.
So you're moving Art 01?
I don't know what that means.
We have a draft Art 01 that was tabled. So if we want to discuss it, we should just move the comment.
Unless he has a procedural question, Jeff.
Is there a procedural question about it? You want to discuss it, and I'm understanding the member wants to discuss it, and so we should have a motion and a second to have a business matter to discuss.
Yes, that's what I want.
Okay, so let's say that you're moving that, and is there a second?
Okay, so to say to move means to move to discussion.
I heard a second, and so then I'll recognize Rich. So.
Okay, to start off with the question, based on my notes and my recollection, Eric, this was never approved out of our task force. This was tabled directly to general discussion. Is that true?
That's correct. So it was never passed. It was tabled in our task force.
Okay.
So it's here. I see it tabled to 6.2, but we did not discuss it on 6.2.
Right. So the discussion implied that we were making motions to remove it, but I think that we never added it officially in the first place. So I don't know whether that makes a difference at this point, but we were discussing this last time, not last week, but 2 weeks ago, as if it were approved and in place, and we were discussing whether it be removed.
I would have to defer to our chair for procedural advice.
Chair would deem that if this was not approved by the full CLIC body, that it is not fully approved and will not be in the report.
If it is not approved by the task force, does it get automatically moved to here?
If I might, Chair, I think the question is, so this moved forward despite it being tabled at the task force level. So the question is, and Rich, please correct me if I've got this wrong, is does it advance to the point where it's open for the entire committee?
Recognize John Bernstein and then Robert.
Thank you. So I'm going to state facts that I don't know to make sure that I have them correct. So this was not passed by the Human Development Task Force. However, it was forwarded as part of the consent agenda, which, to my mind, the only things that should have been forwarded as part of the consent agenda is comments that were passed by each task force. I'm the one who removed this from the consent agenda because I had issues with it, but it never should have been on the consent agenda if it was not passed by the task force.
Yep, and that's why I jumped in queue as the staffer for the task force. My understanding, and it's obviously bears correction now, my understanding is that the comment had actually been adopted along with all the other comments that have been discussed with the task force. And then rolled out to the larger committee for consideration, and then it was pulled off of the consent agenda for consideration by the larger committee. That had been my understanding. That's why it was rolled out to the larger committee.
Right.
And that's my understanding is it had been then pulled off And again, that certainly bears correction now if that wasn't actually the case and this was not fully considered by the task force, but I had understood it to be passed by the Human Development Task Force and advanced.
I think we had at least 2, possibly 3 items that we never completed votes on in the Human Development Task Force. And this was certainly one of them. I believe there was one more for sure. I don't recall the third. I tried to go back to look at the meetings on video, and those are not yet available.
All right, speaking to a second time, John?
My hand's not up, but I will say
Okay.
but I would just state that I think that this is a procedural question, and this should not, Rich should not have been forced to move this to discuss it. And I think that should be corrected.
You know, upon further reflection and further clarification, I would agree that it was not clear when this was being moved for discussion was what was stated. So if the intent is not to move to adopt this today, is that correct, Rich?
Well, I think we have strong feelings about this one. I think some people believe that this should be included, and some people feel strongly against it. And at this point, we have never had a vote one way or the other.
Thank you, but was your intent to move this for adoption, or was it a technical inquiry?
Well, my intent was to move it for removal.
Okay. So then it was essentially on the table, and with no action, it would have remained there and it would not be in the report. But
okay.
If that's a motion, I'll second it. Jeff, I'll let you rule about whether you want to take this forward or just leave it on the table. I'll go.
So, okay, so a motion to actually remove this from consideration was properly made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Rich, did you want to have another comment?
No, no more.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, then we should, the clerk will call the roll on the motion to remove this.
Jeff, Eric's
Article
hands up.
1.
Yep.
Okay, now Eric's hand is up. So
Yeah,
Eric?
yeah. I'd like to see if we could offer the author of that section an opportunity to say something if she wishes to before we move on. And that would be Katrina.
Well, you know, when we were discussing this the last time, and somebody said that no matter what I said or no matter what kind of data I showed them, they wouldn't change their mind. I'm going to be back around next year. I mean, I have a whole list of data and stuff I can read, but the resistance is, you know, after the last 4 years, I've learned to go ahead. So you can remove it.
I just want to remind members that our rules don't allow us to call anyone out, which I'm not saying we called anyone out specifically, but I will recognize Scott next.
Can we read this one before we vote on it?
Yeah, would the clerk read this comment?
Very gladly. This is Art 01, Art in Public Places, was tabled to the June 2nd meeting and not taken up at that time. The comment reads, to date, the city of Minneapolis has underinvested in its public arts program and fallen short of its contemporary peers, including Philadelphia, Chattanooga, Austin, and Fort Collins, all of which started their AIPP programs many years earlier. They have all achieved national and global recognition as a result. CLIC recommends increasing the AIPP budget allocation beyond incremental funding that meets minimum requirements, but may not, quote unquote, move the needle in terms of catching up to and surpassing the arts programs made by our peer cities. Boosting investments in public arts beyond the required levels will carry many benefits to the city and its citizens, including but not limited to hiring and supporting local artists who have been disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, growing Minneapolis's national reputation as a strong advocate and destination for public art, strengthening the bond between neighborhood communities, and providing an outlet for youth to engage in healthy forms of expression and personal growth. End comment.
Thank you, Clerk. I see we have Scott, you have your hand.
It should be down.
Oh, now it is. Very good. Well, is there any further discussion? So, to the best of my ability, the motion is to remove from consideration, properly moved and seconded, and we've had debate. This was formerly tabled, so if the motion passes, it will be removed from consideration. If the motion fails, it still is tabled. So it's not like it's approved. So clerk will call the roll, please.
Thor Adam.
Aye.
Zachariah Aiden. Zachariah Aiden. Jocelyn Beard.
Aye.
John Bernstein.
Aye.
Steve Brandt.
Aye.
Luke Cunningham.
Aye.
Scott Engel.
Nay.
Amity Foster. Amity Foster.
Aye.
Eamon Gallagher.
Aye.
Bill Graves.
Nay.
Ike Gudmidstead.
Aye.
William Gullickson.
Aye.
Risa Houston.
Aye.
Katie Jones.
Aye.
Matt Kazinka.
Aye.
Richard LaRoe.
Aye.
Erica Mauter.
Nay.
Vic McCormick.
Aye.
Dan Miller.
Aye.
George Montague.
Aye.
Beth Toso.
Aye.
Todd Schumann.
Aye.
Katrina Stratton.
Nay.
Eric Wan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Willie Bridges.
Abstain.
Chair Jeff Strand.
Aye.
There are 20 ayes.
Okay, that is removed from consideration. We have 6 minutes before our time certain item. The clerk can scroll down for the next item, please. After you've made your notations.
After the hands.
Amity.
Yeah, this isn't a question. I just need to leave the meeting for a few minutes. My computer is overheating and I got to get a fan for it. So
Thanks.
If this is in order, Chair, I'm going to move Water 35.
On page 6, Water 35 is moved. Submitted June 6th to replace original. Is there a second?
Katie Jones, second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing no hands raised, the clerk will, well, do we need it read?
Yep, I can read it out.
Okay, we need
So,
it read.
This is Water 35 renewable energy at water treatment campuses and PSD 24 solar at various locations. And this was submitted on June 6th to replace the original comment. This comment reads, according to the purpose and justification section of CBR Water 35, Mayor Fry and the City Council made goals in 2018, quote, to move to 100% renewable energy for municipal facilities and operations by 2022, end quote. Click wishes to emphasize the importance of sticking to aggressive goals in the face of climate change. The city finds itself at a moment of opportunity to expand on existing goals for renewable energy. Both Water 35 and PSD 24 incorporate sustainability planning into ongoing city services. The American Rescue Plan Act, passed in January of 2021, includes approximately $45.6 billion to be allocated to metropolitan cities. Click urges the city to consider using this grant to either expand these projects and or identify new projects that move the city towards its renewable energy goals. Also, renewable energy projects are particularly good investments as they provide future revenue streams. CLIC recommends the city consider using grant funds to pay for renewable energy projects outright rather than issuing debt to remove the return on those investments. And any comment?
Thank you, Clerk. Clerk has read the comment. It's been properly moved and seconded. Seeing no hands raised, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on adopting. Water 35.
Thor Adam.
Aye.
Zachariah Aiden.
Aye.
Jocelyn Beard.
Aye.
John Bernstein.
Aye.
Steve Brandt. Steve Brandt.
Aye.
Luke Cunningham.
Aye.
Scott Engel.
Aye.
Amity Foster.
Aye.
Eamon Gallagher.
Aye.
Bill Graves.
Aye.
Kai Gudmidstead.
Aye.
William Gullickson.
Aye.
Risa Husted.
Aye.
Katie Jones.
Aye.
Matt Kazinka.
Aye.
Richard LaRoe.
Aye.
Erica Mauter.
Aye.
Jake McCormick.
Aye.
Dan Miller.
Aye.
George Montague.
Aye.
Beth Toso.
Aye.
Todd Schumann.
Aye.
Katrina Stratton.
Aye.
Eric Wan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Willie Bridges.
Aye.
Chair Jeff Strand.
Aye.
There are 26 ayes.
Motion adopted. Well, it's 12:58. I think to honor the spirit of our agenda, we have a time certain 1 o'clock discussion that was tabled from the last meeting on the strategic and racial equity action plan. You want to, so members, unless there's any action to the contrary, we will move to that discussion item, please. Picking up from the last meeting.
Yeah, Jeff, and if I recall correctly, the item was tabled for additional consideration to today's meeting without, I would argue, substantial discussion at last week's meeting. I can bring up the presentation that we brought forward last week, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Just 1 second. Okay, so it should be up for members to view, and I think folks will recall that last week we kind of, touched on where CLIC was in its process. Not very long ago, we moved from our task force discussions to broader group discussion. I think we noted that CLIC was starting to touch upon some major potential comments and discussion, particularly around racial equity within the city a couple of weeks ago, and staff, following that discussion and just where we were in the process, brought forward, some resources and a status update of where the city is on some of these larger processes. I think confirming that this is a major body of work, and CLIC's recommendation integrates into the city's larger budget processes and larger work plans for the year. So we wanted to provide that update at the last meeting, confirm certain work that CLIC is currently already doing around equity, particularly equity criteria that are included in its project rankings, and differentiating equity from racial equity. And then we concluded last week's presentation, I think, with more of an open-ended question for CLIC. Is a self-governing, relatively self-governing body that adheres to rules applied by the state of Minnesota and the city clerk. We wanted to bring forward these questions to CLIC as a relatively self-governing body, and I think open that up and preserve some space for, I think, some larger conversations about the CLIC process while we're, currently midstream on some of the process. And also in time for, I think, the conclusion of this year and looking forward to next year's process as well. And if I recall correctly, and others may very well jump in and correct me, that was where we had ended last week's discussion before it was decided to table all further discussion to today's meeting.
You see, John, I recognize John Bernstein.
Jeff, I just request that you set a goal for this discussion. It's not clear to me what we're doing here. I'm all for providing information. More information is always a good thing. So if that's the goal here, that's great. As I understand it, in our bylaws, one thing we don't do is change the guidelines or rating system that we use midstream, which is what anything like that would be. And just for members that are new, we actually did change the guidelines between last year's CLIC session and this year's CLIC session. And the most meaningful change, I think it's fair to say that the most meaningful change we made was in fact around equity, which was adding equity to the qualitative criteria and giving it more points than any other of the qualitative criteria that are down there. It gets up to, I believe, it's 20 points. So again, my question is, what's the goal of this discussion?
So I wanted to note that Director Kruger is on the call with us and also has her hand raised as part of the discussion.
Okay, let's go with Director Kruger.
Thank you so much. And sorry for my tardiness. I just got done with a very long cow meeting, but I'm here now. And I think that John raises a good point. And my answer, based on conversations we've had with staff trying to frame up this conversation, is that this is not a conversation we have an explicit goal for. We're really just trying to hold space to make sure that these conversations aren't happening only at the tail end in like a follow-up meeting, or only sort of as we're doing a step back at the end in preparation for next year. We're trying to change the pattern a little bit and make sure we're talking midstream to start the conversation about how we're doing racial equity analysis, so that we can build on and have a more fruitful conversation when we talk about those specific changes that you've identified, John. How do we want to change the criteria? Do we want to do X, Y, Z differently next year? This is perhaps a bit of an uncomfortable request to just sort of hold the space for a discussion so that we can do higher quality work later on in the year. And thank you.
Thanks, Amelia. I will respond to the member. While I would have had the conversation and the presentation been earlier in our process, in a perfect world, and would have allotted much more time for the members to thoughtfully consider and have a very deep discussion, coming in the position of our CLIC process at this point. I am feeling pressured as your chair to finish the deliverable that we are called upon to finish. So I will acknowledge that if you are, and yet I'm certainly respectful of all members and wanting to make sure that all voices are heard. I did recently myself complete training on racial equity impact tool. And so I think that as CLIC goes through its process, there's information from the REIT tool that I would bring to the process myself, and that is just answering questions. How have communities been engaged? Are there opportunities to expand engagement? Who will be benefited from or be burdened by a proposal? And then the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, GARE, I believe is the overarching entity that both City of Minneapolis and Hennepin County use. So I think that this is appropriate timing, and members should take this information and use it. And we should also examine potential unintended consequences, and develop mechanisms to track and report on progress and impacts, including disaggregated data. So CLIC is a very influential body, and we all bear a great deal of responsibility for this, multi-billion-dollar plus program. So I think that this is excellent that the staff has brought this to our attention. And that's why the time's certain and we have an opportunity for a dialogue today. So that's the goal, if the member, John, is that we have a dialogue and that we continue to be mindful of this information and how it impacts our BIPOC communities and all residents. Robert?
I don't think I was next in queue.
Amity's
okay.
up next.
But thank you.
She's in queue. And
Who
then
is?
Jocelyn.
Okay, I'm just not seeing screens on my hands at this point.
No, it's Amity
Amity.
and then Jocelyn.
Okay, Amity, Jocelyn, and Robert.
Thank you. Sorry, it's really noisy in my apartment right now, around me. So I guess I have two questions. One is for Robert and staff. So the REIA tool that we went over last week, so I tried to access that and was not granted access. So my question is does Public Works and everybody who creates CDRs, do they have to use that for their projects? And then is there a way for CLIC's members to actually get access to it? So if we wanted to, we could use it or use it as, I don't know, to push ourselves on how we evaluate projects.
Yes, Amity, thank you for the question. So there's currently a form that's available that is used. It's especially used for requests for committee or council action. Especially where it informs decisions that are directly addressed by the Strategic Race and Equity Action Plan. And that form is particularly useful, I think, especially to the extent that staff are trained in on that form and understand that I think we can share out the form. I don't think it's a big issue, but I think that what a lot of members here would appreciate is that the form, asks you to really utilize everything that is, embedded in the Strategic Race and Equity Action Plan and the Race Equity Impact Analysis guidelines that are there. Because the form itself, it almost feels like you could answer it pretty quickly in a lot of ways. It's a pretty brief tool, and I think that explains, I think, some of the delay in sharing out that form in favor of focusing a little more on a lot of the content that is currently published out on the city website. But we do have that. We can do one last double check, but I don't think there's any issue at all in sharing out that form, just as a matter of process. To my knowledge, departments may be applying that form internally in different ways. I do not know that it's currently being applied on a project by project basis or not. And we need to follow up to confirm if if departments are going through individual CBRs and applying a race equity impact analysis to individual CBRs, or if they're applying it at different stages in their process.
Thank you. Jocelyn?
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to make a general comment and first say thank you to the chair for sharing some of the thoughts after participating in the training that you've participated in. What I want to challenge this committee to is to realize that intention versus impact are two different things. And as we talk about the budget and talk about how funds are being allocated, and as the chair and others have said, our recommendations have great weight. So when we have conversations about what one ward is able to do versus another ward, let's take into consideration that the intention of the CBR and the intention of the folks may be good, but that the impact may be different. And as a woman of color, I'm just gonna put it out that it's never a good time to talk about race, but I walk around in the intersections that I am every day. And so we should take into consideration that we all, in the different ways that we present, have intersections. And so we should be considering, as we are considering those that we represent, and that we are having voice for, that sometimes that everything isn't black and white. There's always shades of gray. And so I just wanted to make that general comment. And I appreciate that the staff has given this opportunity to have this conversation.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Amity, did you have another comment? Okay, Robert, your hand is raised.
Yeah, Jeff, thank you. I'm going to drop myself back out of queue. I see some other hands coming up.
Okay, I see John.
It's William Grace before John.
Okay, sorry, I'm not getting hands shown. So William and then John.
Thank you, Chair. I guess as a general comment, partially reiterating the comments of Jocelyn, and also to encourage the City of Minneapolis and this committee as well to learn more about Minneapolis Public Schools EDIA committee and its charges to both audit after the fact the impact of the district's decisions from an equity and diversity perspective, as well as inform decisions that are up for consideration of the board itself. I think that that is a more robust and meaningful utilization of the principles that are underlined here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm seeing hands raised later, apparently, for some reason. I have John and Amity.
Thank you. So I just want to thank Jocelyn for her comments, and what she just said about impact and intent really struck a chord with me. And I just wanted to share a challenge that I found this year scoring that I just, for purpose of discussion, I don't know, maybe somebody else will agree or disagree, but when I was trying to rate projects around the equity category, I found that challenging in a lot of cases. It struck me that most, not all, but most projects in and of themselves don't really speak to equity. There are some that do, but those are rare. It's more about how the city executes the project as to whether it speaks to equity or not. You know, whether it's a paving program that's being done all over the city. So I just found it, that to me made it hard to score them on that, because we don't know much about how they're going to execute, right? Unless it's a project that's got a long history already. And even in that case, you're kind of, if you're rating it on its execution, you're rating it on what's happened in the past, not what may or may not happen in the future. So I just share that as a challenge that I found this year.
Thanks, John. I see Katrina Stratton.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. One's for staff. So a couple years ago, if I would have read these statements, I would have read, and even though the words are same, I would have read them differently than how I read them now. You know, the last year I've had an opportunity to do a bunch of stuff, and my perspective on words has changed a lot. So that now, you know, just when people are saying things in the group and I'm reading some of these PRBs, you know, when somebody says traditionally we do this, to me, that's just supporting white supremacy policies, because that's what tradition is. When I hear, well, you know, that's not the way we do things, well, that's supporting white supremacy policy in my view. So even this, I got really curious about this, even Robert's rules of orders are part of the white supremacy structure to oppress and suppress opinion. And that's you know, as I've been in this group, I've been feeling these really weird things. You know, Harvard has you know, in the upcoming future, Harvard has a really good 5-point way of handling meetings. But so there's a lot of subtlety in the comments and the PRBs and in the committees that I don't think we all realize. So what I'm asking for from staff is some common training that we all do, so at least we get in the same book. We don't have to be on the same page, but we get in the same book. So when we read things, we can start seeing those things. So a training for all of us, I would just really, really love. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. And Willie Bridges?
And one of the things that in the many years that I've been involved with this click, one of the things that is important for members to know is that when the department heads are presenting their case for money, I find that it's important for me to ask the question, what areas of the city are they talking about? One of the art projects example that's on Plymouth and Penn, and that big flower that's over there. Well, learning that no one had communication with the community about putting that art piece there. Someone made that decision without input from the community. And the community saw themselves differently as the person who put the flower. That's one example. When they're talking about, we've had conversation about where the bike space should go. A long time ago, there was a person on the board and said, well, why shouldn't North Minneapolis have a bike path? That was part of our conversation. So I think it really helps when they are presenting, asking us to consider do something. What area of the city are you talking about? And how does this impact that specific area, whether it's north side, northeast, south Minneapolis, or whatever? Because they're able to tell us where they're doing the work. And I think it's up to us to ask the question. If we don't ask the question and we think about equity, then we don't know. So I would suggest as we go forward, you know, where are they wanting to do these improvements? Is it on the north side, northeast? Because some of the things that I know, my friends who live all over the city, I have to look at the areas that they're talking about. And my friends tell me, you know, North Minneapolis, Broadway need lots of things. Part of Northeast, part of South Side Minneapolis needs lots of things. You know, so that's what I would suggest to the group as we go forward next year. Ask the question: where are you talking about improving? That's it.
Thank you, Willie. I'm seeing Katrina with your hand up yet, and I put my hand in queue, and Robert.
If you were saying Katrina and you meant Katie.
No,
Okay.
I'm saying Katrina, but now I see Katie.
Yeah,
but,
and I would like to affirm, I saw Katie, Jeff, yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Katie Jones.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to Katrina's point about training, to just put it in the notes that we should also have in there comment writing, because I know, especially for new folks, it's a weird way that we create words and put them together, and it might be helpful to have some guidance on that.
Katrina, were you in queue again?
No, my hand's down.
It's you, Jeff.
All right, I'm still seeing Katrina, but okay, so I would like to just add from a personal perspective, I was in a neighborhood board meeting last night with public works staff talking about the bike trail on 53rd Avenue North. And kind of coming full circle in my personal volunteer career, if you will, with the city, I first got involved with the neighborhood board dealing with an equity issue for disability community of connecting a 600-yard wood chip trail that connected, quote unquote, connected the Hennepin County Trail with the Minneapolis system. So can you imagine a person with disabilities or elderly or, you know, other different abilities maneuvering a wood chip trail between two major systems? And so that was one of the first accomplishments of Shingle Creek Neighborhood Association when I became involved. And now we're looking at adding for the first time bike lanes, striped lanes in the roadway on 53rd Avenue North, which is divided between Brooklyn Center and Minneapolis. But in terms of having worked downtown and been near the Commons, to see the level of, quite frankly, manicured lawns, lawn chairs, beautiful bike lanes off-road, different colored concrete, which is fantastic and I think safer. But thinking as a North Minneapolis resident that a lot of people probably think, oh, you're on I've heard people say border neighborhood, which to me is somewhat offensive. And we said, well, what about part of Brooklyn Center has an off-street trail near a Brookview Lane addition that was built in response to Hennepin Community Works Humboldt Greenway, including a fence to clearly show where Minneapolis ended and the other city began. But there isn't money, so it's a matter that we can have it, but it's going to be striped in the street, just like 49th Avenue North. So a lot of these questions about equity run into the question of the almighty dollar, it seems. And so I think that is really something we have to work through as CLIC members who are committed to overarching equity as well as racial equity. I think, Katrina, Katie, and Robert.
Eric Can was up next, Jeff.
Okay. Eric.
Muted.
So I believe one of the most successful approaches that we've seen in the CLIC process has been the equity methodology that the park board uses. We may not agree entirely with how they weight things, but certainly there's a logical way to approach the evaluation of your projects. I would propose that that methodology or that approach be shared with all the other city agencies as an example of what you can do to prioritize and to acknowledge that there are different distributions of livability and other city resources across the city. And if there's a way to do that before the next budget cycle so that they can see, hey, this is something you two can adopt, that would be really beneficial for next year. We'll know what that definition of equity and the methodology, what it looks like across the entire city. So that's just a thought I'd like to share.
Thanks, Eric. So noted. I may be seeing delayed hand raised, but I see Katie, Robert, and Katrina, and then I wonder if we should have the remaining 30 minutes to do more of our business, other business.
Jeff, it does look like there's a delay. I'm in queue and Amity is in queue as well.
Okay.
Thank you. So I just wanted to call out, I'm not sure that the discussion is at all at a point where we would, contemplate actions, although it does sound like there are a few, there's just ideas, already out there. We've heard mention of, potential training or resources that would help CLIC, looking to, other organizations around the Twin Cities that have processes that are in place that work very well or would represent an improvement over, our own current processes. From Willie's comment about just asking where projects are occurring, comments on how Robert's rules works for the committee, we're kind of cutting across all of these different areas that, describe how CLIC does its work. I wanted to recognize some of that and also call out, CLIC has a work plan every single year, and that work plan has a couple of main components. There's the early introduction and orientation. There's the ranking process that occurs. There's comment development, and then there's the development of the CIP. Hopefully that rings true to a lot of the returning members, but those are the major pieces of work that CLIC does each year. And I wanted to, kind of call those out as we have, continued discussions about CLIC's process, because those are, those themselves are, I think some of the things that we're talking about, in addition to the capital projects. I wanted to kind of bring those different elements of our work plan up for, I don't know, just consideration or up for reflection too, as we look at the work that we do. As John mentioned, it would be a real challenge, I think, to change any guidelines right now as part of our process. But we do have these guidelines that enact, our investment scheme across the city, every single year. I don't think we're at the point where where anybody's being asked for recommendations either, but the race equity impact analysis can be applied at multiple levels too. You can look at an individual project. You can look at a global process as well using that tool. It's really versatile, and it's really meant to peel a process apart and really take a look at the outcomes that a process is generating. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Amity and Katrina.
Yeah, thank you, everyone who's spoken. I agree with everyone who's talked about more trainings, and I think there's plenty of places to go, city and external sources. And I think there would be, during our orientation, doing like a half hour, 45, whatever the time frame is, focused training on equity, racial equity across the city, and like how different organizations use it, how we should use it as CLIC. But I think there's also, like, we're having this conversation, and I just want to go back to what John said about scoring specific projects. It can be really, like, there's like 30 or 40 PV projects, and it is really hard to know how to score those with a racial equity lens beyond just like, oh, this project is in North Side, this project is South, this project is downtown. Because equity is not just about the neighborhoods that a project is in, it's when they're coming up for scoring, how they connect to the projects around them. And so I do think Public Works and the groups who are creating those CBRs should, like, they should do more than just a cursory analysis of racial equity when they're presenting them. And we can't do our jobs fully without their expertise on them, and we can't be the only body that's holding a racial equity analysis on Public Works projects. So I am interested in how those things could connect. And then finally, sorry, this is a little bit long-winded, I do think there's a lot of members on CLIC who have been here for a long time, and I don't know how we all intersect, like how we all connect outside of CLIC, the smaller meetings that we have as groups, and how we talk about equity with each other beyond transportation and HD and the times when we're all together. So I would be interested in leading some of that work if others would be interested in it too. Not leading it, but like being part of it.
Yeah, thank you. Clerk can note that. Katrina, and then I'm not seeing any other hands, and if there's no objection, we may want to wrap up.
Jeff, my hand isn't up.
Okay, well, I saw it in my screen, so I maybe have a time warp delay in another universe.
Sorry.
Okay, any other hands? I'm not seeing any other hands.
I just want to know how it is in that universe you're in.
It's getting a little warmer. Well, we certainly can follow this up through our entire process. And thank you, Robert, and other staff for bringing this to the CLIC, Amelia. So continue the conversation later in our process. We can follow up with additional training and meeting and add more to onboarding. So that's That's good. Unless there's anything further, then we should,
Thor's hand is up.
okay, Thor.
Yep, what Amity said too is, I think, really important on, as the reports come in, as much information that they can present, as we try to come from all angles. But I did, as I would search through the reports, I didn't have a lot of direction on how that project, they felt that project was being impacted. So I think that's a very important, I agree with that statement. I want to make sure that that's heard. I will do my part. I will keep working on understanding myself, but I need help from the departments as well to do well. Thank you.
Robert?
Yeah, and so I think, there's a lot that can be done. I think to the extent that CLIC can help to, provide, I don't know, ideas, options. I think laying out things like eliciting better information via the capital budget requests is great, but I think really exploring how to do that, or taking the next steps to explore how to do that will be really important to continuing improvement of the process. And I think there are a few things that were raised today too that really just merit, to me, they feel like they merit some additional steps, especially if at some point we want to translate that into staff action. I just want to name that and highlight it so that, if we're looking for responses from either, support staff or from departments that are submitting information, or if we're looking for additional training, just helping us translate this general discussion into next steps in action will be tremendously helpful at subsequent meetings, especially as we look forward to next year. And I think we'll try and follow up to the extent that we can on items that we note today. But again, to the extent that we can get those into really firm recommendations or requests will be really helpful.
Thanks, Robert. We do have required equity. I mean, we have required ethics training, so we could certainly have other like REITs, REAT, REIT. Willie?
I just make this real quick. I just wanted to make sure we follow up what Amity was saying and Jocelyn was saying earlier, that we actually have time slot as we begin, not this phase, but the next phase, that we would have done some of the things and talk more about that. I just don't want to talk about it and it's out there, but I want us to have on our agenda, after we get through all this for the second time around, that we have those conversations and we have some kind of plan and information. So Robert, just make sure that's there.
Okay.
That's the thing that we do before we start this process again.
Well, and I just want to remind members and new members that when we had the subcommittee working after the last session before this session, the former budget director had sort of put the CBR request tool software that city staff uses so out of scope. So I know that other members like John, for example, were interested in tweaking the software that the staff use. So what we see is probably largely a result of what options the city staff have with the CBR tool. So if we don't have that question in there, we're not going to see it. So I want to segue back to our unfinished business, if there's no objection, to page 6 of our, I believe we have 2 remaining task force reports. Right, Robert, on.
Yep.
We have MBC 12, yes, please, MBC 12 and PV 006 on page 6. And then I believe that completes the task force comments.
All right, so I have MBC 12 that was submitted June 2nd. At this time, I'd like to read out the comments. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Click urges that MBC undertake further study before implementing any security upgrades to City Hall that restrict public entry to the building through general screening. MBC should perform a building security analysis that indicates the level of perceived threat wherein the building the perceived threat is greatest, and any techniques short of general screening that would mitigate perceived threat, and report its conclusions to Click before proceeding with any security improvements. End comment.
Okay, this comment is before you. Steve Brandt.
I'll move the comment and ready to speak on it when I get a second.
Is there a second?
Is Thor second?
Moved and seconded, recognizing Steve.
Right. This is an attempt to balance the needs of security for the city employee workforce with the presumption that we have in democracy of openness and access to a building. It's just basically saying, be sure before you go ahead on restricting public entry that you have a good sense of where it's needed, if it's needed. There are already, I think, history around the country has shown that generally it's elected officials who tend to be targeted by security threats. And there are already a number of security measures that are in play for the city council and people that meet in its chamber, ranging from the presence of security during meetings to some things that I'm aware of but haven't been fully disclosed to the public, as well as I think that we should think about which parts of the building might be more vulnerable or more targeted, prone to targeting than others, and concentrate on those rather than the whole building. I think one thing that distinguishes this building is that it has both armed police officers working in the building as well as armed sheriff's personnel working in the building, which provides a degree of supervision or of deterrence that I think a potential assailant might consider. So this is saying basically be cautious before you close off or harden the building. There is some language in MBC 12 that suggests that they're looking about going in that direction.
Thank you, Steve. So we have a comment properly moved and seconded. Unless I'm not seeing any hands raised, okay, we have two. So Dan and John, or John and Dan.
Dan had his hand up first, so I'll defer to Dan first.
Yeah, so I'll just point out that if you look on the NBC's website at their meeting, which they had last week, they are moving forward on this. They had a study already done by Homeland Security. It was presented to the board back in July of last year, so I think this might be a little bit moot, but Steve and I disagree on this to some degree, but I think we ourselves, have meetings in City Hall. I represent employees in City Hall. We all have people we know that are there. I don't want to get, I think I use the analogy of using a mask during COVID, as a courtesy. It's a little bit of an inconvenience, but if we're going to keep other people safe, there are inconveniences we have to do. St. Paul City Hall has this in place. Henry County Government Center has this in place. You go over to the new building, the Public Service Center, they have counters that are made of bulletproof Kevlar so that staff can duck behind them in case an active shooter comes in and starts shooting. I mean, this is the society we live in. I think the last time we talked about this, literally while I was discussing this, the shooting occurred at the bus garage in California. So, I mean, it's a fact of life. I wish it wasn't.
Thanks, Dan. We have John and Eric.
I don't know. So those of you that know me may think that an alien from that universe Jeff is in is occupying my body and speaking for me. But I'm thinking, and I'm not going to hold up the comment over this. Maybe it's the way I read it. But I guess I'd offer this as a friendly amendment. and if it's not taken, that's fine. I'll just drop it. That last sentence is I feel like we maybe want to soften that language just a touch. This idea that they report back to us with conclusions before proceeding, it just seems a little, I don't know, maybe if we change the word report to share and take out the term click and just say share the conclusions before proceeding with any, softens it just a bit. I don't and I don't think it changes the message. I don't know how you feel about that, Steve. I'll just leave it at that. If nobody agrees, I'll just drop it.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that as well.
Okay. Unless there's objection, we'll just take that as a de minimis change, not requiring a vote. Thanks, John, Eric, and Willie.
You mute, Eric. Eric, you mute.
Thank you. So for context, I spent virtually all my career in buildings where you were patted down, metal detectors, the whole bit. When I started working, they were, you'd find someone sleeping on your sofa when you got to the office in the morning, and this was in the White House complex. So I think the world changed a lot over the last 20 years, and definitions as well. So Steve, what do you mean by general screening? That for me means something quite detailed.
Sorry, Eric, what I mean is basically everybody goes through a metal detector and their bags are searched.
Okay, so that doesn't include, that's not like a background check or any of that. It's just a physical, I'll use the word examination before you enter the building. That's what you would consider general screening.
Right.
Okay. Hey, thank you.
Willie?
I do agree. I've been in that building a lot. And some of you may not be aware, the entrance on the third, that's an entrance that's over there that's not secure at all. And on the back end facing northeast, they have a guard there, but the front end, there's no one there. They do need to do an analysis of that building of security because it's really open. And that's why the government center put their secure thing. They can lock those doors between the government center and City Hall. So I think they need to look at it, have an analysis of it, and figure out how to secure that building a little more than what it is. Because there's 3 entrances, but one entrance, you would never know anyone came into that building.
All right. I'm seeing John. Are you still in queue?
No, my hand's down.
I see. Okay. I put my hand in queue, and I'll just say briefly that I think since it is LGBTQ Pride Month, hearkening back a long time ago to the assassination of Harvey Milk, that I don't think we can say because security, police, or other sheriffs or other uniformed public safety officers' office in a building that it is necessarily safe for public or public officials. But I don't oppose the comment, and I just think that we've declined greatly since 1978 in terms of our weaponization and gun violence. So I think it is an ongoing issue that really deserves careful consideration by public officials. I'm not seeing any other hands raised, so we could just have the clerk call the roll on adoption.
I see Steve Brand in queue.
Okay.
Yep.
Steve?
I'll defer. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right, on the motion to approve MBC 12 comment, Thor Adam.
Aye.
Zachariah Aiden.
Aye.
Jocelyn Beard.
Aye.
John Bernstein.
Aye.
Steve Brandt.
Aye.
Luke Cunningham.
Aye.
Scott Engel. Scott Engel, Amity Foster,
Aye.
Eamon Gallagher,
Aye.
Bill Graves,
Aye.
Kai Goodmanstead,
Aye.
William Gullickson,
Aye.
Risa Husted,
Aye.
Hold on one second.
Katie Jones, Katie Jones, Matt Kazinka, Matt Kazinka, Richard LaRoe,
Aye.
Erica Mauter, Erica Mauter, Dan McConnell,
No.
Jake McCormick, Dan Miller,
Aye.
George Montague,
Aye.
Beth Toso,
Aye.
Todd Schumann, Trina Stratton,
Nay.
Eric Wan,
Aye.
Vice Chair Willie Bridges,
Aye.
Chair Jeff Strand.
I'll abstain.
There are 18 ayes, 2 nays, and 1 abstention.
Motion adopted. I think we have time for PV 006. Katie Jones.
All right, this is Robert. This PV 006, it was submitted June 2nd for inclusion. This comment reads, Click commends the city on seeking to provide good infrastructure service. City streets and alleys give us access to a variety of destinations, including private property. As the city evaluates alleys for reconstruction/pavement, it should consider not only the current alley pavement condition, but also the drainage patterns that are negatively affecting adjacent residences, as on the block of 3500 to 3600 Fremont Avenue South. Poor drainage that causes water pooling brings winter ice buildup and prevents access to properties. End comment.
Is there any action on this comment?
I would move this comment. This is Thor.
Great. Thor is moved. Is there a second?
Second. Amity.
Okay, Amity. Moved and seconded. I'll recognize John unless Thor wanted to speak to it as a mover. John?
So I had my hand up previously. I was going to move the comment with one change to it. I'm supportive of the comment, and I'm not suggesting this was Katie's intent, but having that specific block addressed in there, I assume her intent is to use that as an example, but it reads a bit like it's saying, please fix this block, which is something we typically don't do, is to call out a specific thing we want fixed in a residential neighborhood like that. So I would ask that maybe it can be friendly, that we just remove the reference to the specific block.
Yeah, the question to John, is it helpful for examples? Because I know of several other blocks also. I don't want the city to not understand what we're referring to, but how do we get that clarity without an example?
I guess
Ms.
my
Katie?
thought, Public Works will understand exactly what you're talking about and that they're aware of this. So to me, I don't think it's necessary to have an example. If we are going to do it that way, then there should be multiple ones, and maybe, I don't know, I'd feel better if we didn't do it. I just think it can be read incorrectly, like it's sort of trying to say, please go fix that block, which I know is not your intent, but it can be read that way.
I'll make a suggestion to the clerk. If you, after the word residences, if you put parentheses and you had EG, and then put a paren after S period, that might be one way to handle it. I don't know. I don't see Katie here. Rich is recognized.
I agree with John. No human being who has lived in Minneapolis with an alley for a single winter doesn't know what this means. So I would actually suggest even putting the example is a little too directive. Anybody who reads this knows what this means. In fact, you can come fix my alley first because we have this in spades.
Is there any objection, since due to technical difficulties, I'm not seeing the hands quite instantly? So apparently it was John's intention to be the maker of the motion, less the as on the block of 3,500, 3,600 Fremont.
Oops.
Is there any objection to removing that specific language?
I'm fine with that, this is Thor. With removing it. Yep.
Can I object, or does it have to be the person that wrote it?
No, if there's objection. So Katrina, you object? Okay, so then we can't really just do it without an amendment. John, did you want to make an amendment to strike the language?
Yeah, but procedurally, can't the maker call it friendly regardless of what anybody else thinks? I mean, I think that's what Thor just did. I don't think it matters if somebody else objects to that. He's the author.
I don't believe there is really a friendly amendment process.
Well, I'll let you rule on this, but otherwise I would, that's a substitute
Okay.
motion by me to remove
Okay.
that phrase.
So he's got an amendment. Is there a second, Thor? Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a discussion. I've had my hand up and I don't think you
Okay,
can.
Katrina, recognizing you.
So this was this person specifically, I thought, mentioned this during one of the public comments because he gets 18 inches of ice and he has called the city, over 3 or 4 years, and it still hasn't been taken care of. So this was, I think, a specific place from one of the public comment periods, if that makes any difference.
Thank you, Katrina. Did you want me to respond to that?
Yeah, but I think that's why. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the comment. The clarification, just so that you're aware, the full text of the joint public hearing is published in the CLIC report, including any written comments that were submitted for the hearing. Just
okay.
clarifying that, so the person's comment will be in the report if it was submitted.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the amendment? So if not, the amendment is to just strike that as on the block of 3,500, 36 Fremont Avenue South. Clerk can call a roll.
Thor Adam.
Aye.
Zachariah Aiden.
Aye.
Jocelyn Beard.
Aye.
John Bernstein.
Aye.
Steve Brandt.
Aye.
Luke Cunningham.
Aye.
Scott Engel. Amity Foster.
Aye.
Eamon Gallagher.
Aye.
Bill Graves.
Aye.
Kai Gudmidstead.
Aye.
William Gullickson.
Aye.
Risa Husted.
Aye.
Katie Jones. Matt Kazinka. Richard LaRoe.
Aye.
Erica Mouter. Ann McConnell.
Aye.
Jake McCormick.
Aye.
Dan Miller.
Aye.
George Montague.
Aye.
Beth Toso.
Aye.
Todd Schumann. Rena Stratton.
Aye.
Eric Wan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Willie Bridges.
Aye.
Chair Jeff Strand.
Aye. So the amendment
There
passes.
are 21 ayes.
Did anyone need to have the final wording read? All right, then we'll if there's no further discussion, then the roll call on the adoption of the comment as amended.
Thor Adam.
Aye.
Hang on,
Zachariah Aiden.
wait, is the amendment striking out the, for example?
It
That's not the-
was.
yeah.
Yeah,
I-
it's
I
not
don't-
shown in there, whoever's editing. It's, that was Chair's suggestion, but the amendment was removing. There you go.
Thank you.
All right, motion to approve as amended. Thor Adam.
Aye.
Zachariah Aiden.
Aye.
Jocelyn Beard.
Aye.
John Bernstein.
Aye.
Steve Brandt.
Aye.
Luke Cunningham.
Aye.
Amity Foster.
Aye.
Eamon Gallagher.
Aye.
Bill Graves.
Aye.
Kai Goodmanstead.
Aye.
William Gullickson.
Aye.
Risa Houston.
Aye.
Richard LaRoe.
Aye.
Dan McConnell.
Aye.
Jake McCormick.
Aye.
Dan Miller.
Aye.
George Montague.
Aye.
Beth Toso.
Aye.
Katrina Stratton.
Aye.
Eric Wan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Willie Bridges.
Aye.
Chair Jeff Strand.
Aye, voting aye.
There are 21 ayes.
Very good, that's adopted. It appears that we just have time in our remaining 3 minutes. We will have to move the completing general comments to the next meeting, as well as the staff presentation on preliminary net debt bonding programming. However, Robert, do you have the ability to show and look at the two, if we have the ratings of projects, CBRs by top to bottom and then by program?
Yeah, let me see if we have Neil Younghands on the call still. Staff may have been called away.
Okay.
No, so I'm still here. So are you just looking for, you're just looking for it by project?
By project. Highest to lowest.
Yeah, Neil actually has some summary information as well on the rankings, which may be really helpful. I recall last year some summary information was asked for, and Neil's actually managed to find the time to pull something together this year as well.
Yeah, it might take a couple minutes to walk through all this. So I don't know if it's best to talk about it at the next meeting, or I don't know what you want to do. I mean, we have 2 minutes left.
Yeah, we only have 2 minutes or a minute and a half, so maybe a minute quick overview, and then we can schedule, you can send this out and we can talk about it next week as well.
Okay. So there were 129 CBR projects to rate. 6 of those were unranked reimbursement projects. The sanitary sewers was actually the top ranked project with an average score of 238. And so we broke this down into 3 different tiers just based on the number of CBRs, because there's not like a really accurate like cutoff in any way until you start getting over here into this MBC 12, and then there's some fleet projects that kind of taper off down here in the tier 3 projects. I can walk through the top 10 ranked projects. It's easiest. So our top 10 projects were sanitary sewers, the Sidewalk 01 defective hazardous sidewalks, infiltration and inflow removal program, neighborhood parks capital infrastructure, storm drains and tunnels rehab program, Water 23 treatment infrastructure improvements, diseased tree removal, city street light renovation, and then playground and site improvements program. So these were in the top 10 projects. And you'll note here, so we have a standard deviation to show kind of the variability in people's scoring of these projects. And the average standard deviation for all these projects was about 30.6. And so just as a measure of how wide the variations were between people, you can see that a lot of these projects are fairly banded close together. So I'll walk on down to the bottom 10 ranked projects, and you can see a little bit more variability with that standard deviation. So technology drive, MPD training and wellness facility, fleet maintenance system, the 4th police precinct, vehicle hoists, tire balancing equipment for Curry, fuel ICU upgrade, the new fire station number 19 and track a key, and then the elevator 12 modernization. So these projects were at the bottom of the 129 CBR projects. And this excludes those ones that no one scored. But again, you'll see that there's like a higher standard deviation with some of these projects. So.
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, do we want to come back to this next week?
Yeah, let's come back to it next week, and can you send us the PowerPoint?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, we're at time. It is 2:01. So we didn't quite finish everything on our agenda, colleagues. So we will have work next week to finish general comments and get a presentation on preliminary net debt bond programming.
Yeah, Jeff, we'll be ready with that next week.
Okay.
We have a few materials that we're already queuing up for that review.
So I would ask, respectfully, and I'll get to John in a second, respectfully ask that members, if you have any other comments, the process at some point has to wind up, and we do have financial recommendations to make on the capital budget, capital improvement program. And we have meetings next week on the 23rd and 30th. And I believe the 30th is our final scheduled meeting. And just so you know, members, I did ask, because of the vaccination and the changes in the state and the city, I did ask our executive secretary if there would be an in-person or hybrid opportunity for the final meeting, respecting people who haven't been vaccinated, respecting social distancing and ability to wear masks, and I've not received the answer yet. And I'm patient. Let's go to John.
Just really quickly, I was going to request that in addition to this PowerPoint being sent out, we also distributed to all members be the ranking that ranks all of the projects by score, and also the one that orders them alphabetically so that you can find a specific project easily to see how it was ranked. And then the final thing I wanted to point out, Jeff, on what you just said about comments is I do intend to offer another comment, but it's the comment that we've put in past reports about how funding is impacted by the Streets and Parks Ordinance, and that comment can't be finalized until we do the funding. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yes, and John and members, if the financial recommendations cause a conflict with the comment, we just adore project XYZ, but then when it comes to funding, the group doesn't fund it. Mm-hmm. We normally will go back and look at comments that are inconsistent with recommendations, or vice versa. Amelia?
Yes, thank you for the reminder about meeting types moving forward. So we've done a little bit of thinking about the situation, talking with the mayor's team, because I know that's like the final meeting you guys have. And we feel confident in our ability to host an entirely online meeting or an entirely in-person meeting. What we don't know about and feel we would just run into a lot of problems because we haven't tried it out is a hybrid meeting. There's just not very many meeting rooms at the city set up to do that. So I don't want to put that one on the table because I just think the likelihood of a lot of problems is high. But I have spoken with the mayor's staff, and if there is interest in an entirely in-person meeting, they are fine with that. Otherwise, I would recommend sticking with entirely virtual, just so we don't run into technical problems here at the tail end.
Are you referring to the executive committee meeting with the mayor and staff, or the final CLIC meeting? Or both?
Well, I think I was mostly thinking about the one with mayor and staff. I think the CLIC meeting would be up to folks on CLIC and just comfort levels.
Okay. Well, because we're past time, I thank you, Amelia, for investigating that and letting us know. And then I think members should just contemplate that. And if we can take maybe 5 minutes of our valuable time at the next meeting to discuss that final meeting, because remember, you're going to be having financial spreadsheets and a lot of give and take on recommendations. So, but with that, apologize, we are over time. I don't see any other questions coming forward, so I'll go through our standard reading. With that, we've completed all the items on the agenda that time permitted for this meeting. I will ask members and staff if there are any other matters to come before this meeting. Seeing no hands raised, if not, without objection, I'll declare this meeting adjourned. And the next meeting will be Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 from noon to 2 p.m. And that concludes our meeting.